These buildings look so dark. Even the sky. I'll never get out. Oh no, don't let them take me in there.
It's long since been known that the mentally ill have been subjected to severe and unimaginable treatment in the United States. Centuries ago, it was viewed as a stain on your family's image if someone in your home were suffering from one of these disabilities. Because of this, disabled family members would be locked away inside of cellars, abandoned in the streets, or hidden away in barns. They were punished for conditions to which they had no control over, and by the 17th century, it was clear that change needed to happen, which brought along an all-new kind of horror. Asylums. Asylums were set up to be safe spaces for the mentally ill to stay and receive treatment, but very quickly, many of them became overstuffed testing grounds for disturbed practices. In the early days, it was believed that internal imbalance was to blame for these illnesses. To combat this, doctors would cut patients open and have them bleed into buckets to restore their balance. And when this didn't work, the treatments would get more and more extreme. Teeth would be pulled, tonsils would be removed, and eventually they even began trying to remove pieces of the stomach, the small intestine, and the colon, all because they thought this would restore balance to the body and the mind. However, many of these treatments often led to death, and we know now that they were virtually ineffective. Aside from the unimaginable procedures, patients were kept like prisoners, being trapped in overcrowded dark rooms that were rarely, if ever, cleaned, and if they didn't comply to orders, they would be beaten. It was painfully clear that these asylums just weren't working, and in fact they were doing more harm than good. This inspired famed architects Henry Richardson and Frederick Olmsted to come together to create a facility that was different. An asylum that could heal patients rather than harm them. And with that, the Buffalo State Asylum for the Insane was created. The asylum featured a multitude of different groundbreaking architectural designs that were supposed to help heal the patients. The architects believed that natural sunlight would help to settle the sick and eventually aid in their healing process. Because of this, over 2,000 large windows were installed in the buildings, along with incredibly high ceilings to make the rooms and halls seem even more open. The building also featured many curved walls, which supposedly was done to make it more difficult to place rows of patients on hospital beds throughout the hallways. This discouraged overcrowding, which was a common problem in many asylums at the time. So basically what they did here was they made these almost like cages so that the patients could come out and get fresh air and natural sunlight. Which that was the whole idea of this place when it first started. It was for better care for the mentally ill. And so they gave them outdoor time like this, and they gave them natural lighting with all the windows in there, and they tried to do things better at first. But things changed. Despite its admirable beginnings, The Buffalo Asylum slowly became a notoriously gruesome place to live. A building designed for patients to have space and to avoid overcrowding soon became overrun. In a facility built for just 600 patients, as many as 3,000 ended up being held there at a time. This led to a lack of space, which forced many of the sick to live in the halls or even outside. Because of the influx of patients, the care only got worse, as the hospital had stopped using innovative treatments and instead resorted to the more commonly used cruel practices. Patients would be tied to their beds and beaten if they misbehaved. Meanwhile, they would be subjected to electroshock therapy as well as hydrotherapy. And the procedures just got worse. Those suffering from schizophrenia would often be given insulin so that the patient would fall into a coma. At the time, it was thought that the patients would wake up with a clearer mind. However, this came with a fatality rate that was estimated to be as high as 10%. The hospital would also use things such as metrazole to induce seizures in patients, and even lobotomies, which were notorious for causing permanent brain damage as well as death. Patients would also be artificially sterilized by doctors as they didn't want them to reproduce. The dream of the Buffalo Asylum ever becoming a place of healing for the mentally ill had faded, and in the end, it became everything that it tried not to be. Over time, the patients would slowly be pulled out of the asylum until the 70s, when operations would be shut down completely, causing the building to become abandoned and to slowly deteriorate. But even before this happened, there were stories of the paranormal inside of this complex, and to this day it's renowned as one of the most haunted places in Buffalo, the city where I grew up. As a kid, I would hear stories of how the ghosts of former patients still roamed the halls of the abandoned building. Lost souls trapped in a place that was likely hell on earth for many of them. It's a building that I've drove by 1,000 times, and it's always left me creeped out whenever I would think of it, just picturing how many people died within those walls and the tragic ways in which they passed. It always just made sense to me that it was haunted. An abandoned, haunted, insane asylum. It's certainly nightmare fuel, but as it turns out, it's not abandoned anymore.
The complex, built in the 1800s, was an asylum for people who had mental disabilities. The Richardson Complex buildings are currently being transformed into a hotel and conference center.
There is new life in the Richardson Olmsted campus with Hotel Henry.
After $100 million of renovation, the former asylum has now been turned into a luxury hotel, providing it with one of the darkest backstories for any hotel that I've ever heard of. And with all things considered, many believe that this could turn out to be one of the most haunted hotels in the country, given its history alone. And tonight, we'll be staying there.
What's that smell?
This place definitely has an odor to it. I seriously cannot believe this. I think we have this place to ourselves too. There's like no one around. It's got a weird feeling to it, just knowing that this used to be a psych ward. Ready? Yeah. All right. Oh my God, what the hell?
This is amazing.
Obviously all this way is the hotel, right? But as of this part, as of this fenced area over here, everything that way is abandoned. So it's still, there's nothing in there, it's completely run down.
When the Buffalo Asylum was renovated into the Hotel Henry, the building was in such disrepair that the $100 million budget only funded 1/3 of the building's renovation, with the rest of the property still being abandoned and sealed off to the public. But it's not just the abandoned parts that are off limits. Because of the current pandemic, the majority of the hotel itself is closed off, making it impossible to fully explore.
Normally I would feel totally comfortable exploring all around this hotel, but obviously because of the COVID restrictions, we have to be kind of careful.
Despite the limitations, we were able to visit every floor of that particular wing, with each floor proving to be extremely similar, with the exception of 4.
Hey, behind you.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I can only imagine what is in there. You getting any spooky vibes here?
Very much.
Yeah. There's something about this floor. It feels a lot less welcoming, I guess. There's something very off, you're right.
From there, we walked around the perimeter of the complex and realized just how massive it really was, as well as how deteriorated the abandoned sections had become.
Look, this is a whole another building to this complex that's also abandoned now. This place, it's huge, this place. Is this just a walkway to nothing?
No, there used to be
Oh my
stairs here.
god. This walkway should lead to stairs, which would go up to that door. But now the door is just kind of floating there. Should I try and open it?
Go off.
I can't reach it. So what happened earlier is we saw a bunch of these things from our window just scattered all throughout the lawns here. And we thought they were some kind of concrete thing, but really they're just tiles from the roof that have fallen off. Because the abandoned part of this hotel is literally falling apart at the seams. Oh my god, look at the pile of these. Look at the pile of them. The whole damn roof's here. Come on, sweetie, go pose with the roof. Come on.
I'll be an Instagram girl with her balloons on her birthday.
Yeah, balloons on her birthday, except it's molded ceiling tile. I can't wrap my head around how big this is. Think about all the rooms in here. And you know the craziest part about it? We've seen how big this is. It was completely filled. In fact, it was so filled that they were overrun completely. And that's why the care here got so bad. And you think about all that, all the mistreatment that they had here, all the people who were so sick. I can't even imagine how many people died here. All the whilst, we are sleeping in this building, and it is now a luxury hotel. All right, so look, we just scaled all across this whole entire building. I'm thinking we're done right here. No. It keeps going all the way down there. Okay, so you know how you said earlier that this is like the perfect place for a horror movie?
Yeah.
Well, it was the inspiration of some horror content. One of my all-time favorites, actually.
In 2013, one of my favorite horror games of all time, Outlast, was released. The game takes place in the fictional asylum known as Mount Massive, which, as it turns out, was modeled off of the Buffalo Asylum, which is now Hotel Henry, which just adds to the already terrifying building.
Dude, there's just people going around like...
Let's see, what is your Outlast impression?
They're just like...
Oh
Did you say to me?
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
So I've stayed at quite a few haunted hotels in my life, but I feel like this is different. Like, don't you think this is like...
Yeah, definitely.
It's different because at those other haunted hotels, they were just hotel rooms, and that's typically what they always were. But here, a room like this was probably used to keep patients in.
Which is horrifying to think of.
It is horrifying to think of. We're gonna be sleeping on this bed in a luxury room now. Meanwhile, people were chained to beds in this room. I feel like there's a really good possibility that somebody passed away in this very room. Basically, I feel like out of all the places I've stayed, this room probably has the best possibility of being haunted. Basically, all I'm gonna do right now is ask some questions, see if there's any spirits around. Hopefully they can give us a sign, maybe that they hear us. Is there anyone here who would like to communicate?
Are there any former patients of the Buffalo Asylum in here with us? We are inviting you in.
Me?
Yeah, we, all right. We're all on this together. Trademarked song. Banger. Sorry. Can you move something? Did you hear that? Mariah and I both heard a noise coming from the bathroom that the microphone just barely picked up. And honestly, it wasn't anything too crazy or convincing, but it is relevant to what transpires next.
It sounded like it came from the bathroom. I wasn't even f***ing around, like...
Come in here. We're gonna shut the door. Are you trying to communicate with us? Alright, this is your last chance and then we're gonna go. If you want to communicate with us, if you want to speak with us, then please let your presence be known. Okay, I think we're good. Alrighty, so we did get the one little noise there, but you know, yeah, we got one little spook, alright? But not enough to really convince me.
Not enough to keep us up at night.
Yeah. But there's more. As Mariah and I were talking on the bed, I heard what sounded like a whisper, followed by obvious movement. At the time, I couldn't make out what I heard, but when I listened back, it sounds like something is softly saying hello. This whisper was followed by loud thuds that to me sounds like footsteps walking away from us. The strange noises continued, as this time an obvious tapping noise could be heard coming from the bathroom, a noise that seems unlikely to have been caused by any sort of natural creaking. That was tapping coming from the bathroom. Is there someone here with us? Is there someone here? So we heard the first noise. It was definitely different. It wasn't a tapping. It was more of a thud. Then it was just all this weird tapping where you could hear it, and it was definitely coming from the bathroom. And in case you didn't realize, we are alone in this hotel room, obviously, but there's also no one else in this hotel right now. Like, it is...
We haven't seen anyone.
We haven't seen anybody. It's... Alright, well...
Time to drink.
Yeah. You know, we are so dumb for saying anything. We should have just kept our mouths shut.
You should have kept your mouth shut.
It's shut. Hey, it's depressed editing Nick here. So nothing new. I had the rest of the footage for that night on a separate SD card, and now this is saying it's corrupted, it's unreadable. I basically lost all of that footage. It's unusable. It literally worked fine yesterday. I should have downloaded all the clips. I caught some great stuff that night. I was excited to show you guys. And now I just really don't know what to do. So it kind of sucks. Pretty devastating. And now I'm kind of scrambling. So I'm going to sleep on it and come up with a plan tomorrow. After taking the night to mull over my options, I decided that my best bet was to just go back to the hotel and spend another night, which was expensive, but it also allowed for us to investigate even further. Hey, we're back, buddy.
definitely a different layout in here.
So unfortunately, we weren't able to get the same room that we were at last time, which does suck because I feel like we were actually onto something. I mean, we captured a lot of crazy shit that night, but it does give us the chance to explore another room to see if maybe this one is haunted as well. So we're gonna run a similar session in this room. So all in all, it should be another spooky night here. Okay, so we're gonna kind of run back the same test that we did at the other room to see if there's anything spooky going on here, because after all, each room is gonna be different. It's gonna tell a different story because different patients stayed in each one of these. So it's possible that one room's haunted here and the other isn't. Are there any spirits in this room that would like to make contact with us? Are there any patients here from the Buffalo Asylum whose spirits are still trapped in this building? As we were waiting for some kind of response, we did hear some strange noises, seemingly coming from all directions. Was that you that just made that noise? Is it hard for you having all these people come into this building, the building where you once suffered so much and now people are just living lavishly? Okay, so in the last room, weirdly enough, the bathroom seemed to be like a real hotspot for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I think we should go to the bathroom. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Is there anyone in here that would like to communicate with us? All right, so this is your last chance. If you want to say anything, if you want to make your presence known, this is it, and then we're going to be leaving the room. So nothing really convincing. Kind of like last time, the first session went, we didn't catch anything. And then it was kind of after that everything started to happen. I don't know, I'm just not feeling anything that paranormal in here yet, you know?
Yes.
Yet. I was gonna say, we got a long night ahead of us though. After failing to get any solid results from the session, we decided to visit another wing of the hotel, a wing that we hadn't yet explored. Okay, so this is actually the other wing of this building, and we're not sure if anyone's actually staying in here or not. We're about to find out though. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is that they're not putting people in this wing at all. You could tell there's no AC. It would definitely have AC just like the other wing if there were people up here, because it feels like it's 100 degrees in here, and it's not just because of the hoodie, you know?
Bro.
Man's be sweating over here. We were shooting a scene talking about how hot it was in this wing, and honestly, it was a scene that I was right about to delete, but then I noticed something when I played it through for the final time. Another voice. While I'm talking, a clear whisper can be heard as soon as I finished speaking. It feels like it's 100 degrees in here, and it's not just because of the hoodie, you know?
Bro.
You know? And to me, it sounds like something is saying, don't speak. It feels like it's 100 degrees in here, and it's not just because of the hoodie, you know? The hoodie, you know?
Bro.
So I'm assuming that means that we have this wing of the building to ourselves. In the moment, Mariah and I were so shocked to find this random cradle in the seemingly empty building that we didn't even notice the sound of footsteps. It sounded like someone was running away from the area. Even if people were staying in this wing, why the fuck
would this be in the middle of the hallway? I just don't get it. Why would this be kept here? Mariah, come here. Am I crazy, or does that look like the silhouette of a person?
Yeah, that definitely does.
What the absolute...
I hate that.
What the fuck, man? It literally looks like there's a person just standing there watching us. Should we go check it out?
Bro, what?
Okay, so I'm assuming it was just this pillar. That makes you feel a little bit better.
Are you sure now? Why is the ear splitting noise getting louder? No.
Is there someone in there?
The noise went away.
In the moment, this was one of the scariest things I've encountered. It sounded exactly like someone was pounding on the door, and the high-pitched noise just made it even more off-putting.
Why is the ear splitting noise getting louder?
But looking back, my assumption is that there was likely machinery in that room, potentially connected to the elevator, but it was impossible to say for sure, and whatever it really was, it terrified us both.
The issue is I don't know what's behind that door. So I don't know if it's anything paranormal, but it sounded literally like pounding against that door. The fuck is this? What is it though? I have no idea. Okay, it doesn't go far. Dude. It goes all the way up.
Does it actually?
Look at that. All the way.
After exploring for a while, we ended up going back to the room and doing one more session to see if we could capture anything else before we went to bed. After this, we're gonna go to bed, we're gonna leave, and we will be gone. So this is your last chance to interact with us, to let your presence be known. Can you move something? Can you say something? Can you give me a sign that you hear me? Alright, we're gonna leave, so I'm gonna ask one more time. Can you give me a sign that you hear me? So, kind of a disappointing way to end the night. I have a feeling that maybe this hotel room isn't haunted, at least not as much as the last one was. But the night's not over yet, because we still have to sleep here, you know? I'm gonna keep the camera by the bedside, and if anything happens, I'll turn it on and I'll let you guys know. And if not, I'll talk to you guys in the morning. I woke up the next morning to loud banging noises, seemingly coming from our door. I checked the peephole and I saw nothing. Given the daylight and the time that it happened, I'm more inclined to believe that this wasn't paranormal, but then again, I didn't see anyone in the hallway. Alright, so we officially made it through the night last night. Nothing crazy happened. I actually slept really well. And then this morning, I was woken up by some banging noises. It was pretty creepy, I'm not gonna lie, but there's no way to really tell if that's paranormal. It was probably just somebody maybe in the hallway moving something around, so I can't say for sure what it was, but other than that, it was actually a really normal and relaxed and comfortable night. We survived, buddy.
The second time.
Yeah. Throughout our time at Hotel Henry, we managed to capture quite a few strange moments, with the most convincing to me being the whispers. Strange sounds can always be blamed on a creaky building or someone in the halls, but hearing actual voices saying actual words, I can't find an explanation for it. Because of the hoodie, you know? Throughout the past year, I found myself believing less and less in the paranormal, but these visits have actually made me change my perspective, and I truly believe that the Hotel Henry is in fact haunted. But of course, I'm not an expert, and that's ultimately left for the individual to decide. It's all made me question the decision to turn this former asylum into a hotel. Something about staying in a fancy, expensive suite, all the while knowing that people suffered in that exact room, it just didn't sit right with me. And though it may be an incredible architectural gem, its past is so twisted that no amount of remodeling could ever cover up the disturbing history of Hotel Henry.